and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're receiving this information. My name is Rafael Vasquez Guzman, and today I am talking with my colleague, Dr. Noel Lavoy, who is a faculty member in the psychology department here at Santa Rosa Junior College. And it was a few months ago, several months ago, that we did a conversation, and we wanted to do this again because we are moving towards the end of the fall semester, and we want to make sure that students, faculty, staff are aware of the resources and how we can take care of each other. So thank you, Dr. Lavoy, for taking the time and being here. Again, we're moving towards the end of the semester. What is it that you're encountering? What is it that you're hearing from students? And then we can talk about resources for them.
Yes, great. Glad to do this again, by the way. We got lots of feedback that students and faculty and other people found this helpful. So let's talk. I mean, we're moving into finals week. It's coming up really fast here at the end of the semester. And there's so much research showing that this is a really hard week for students. Depending on how much stress students have been experiencing this semester, ramping up that stress even further going into finals can be really, really difficult. So I know my students are feeling it. Maybe a lucky few aren't, but most of them are. I just want to say that my students have shared that this semester has been really stressful for them already. Things like burnout, decision fatigue, just regular college workload on top of family and work commitments. Financial stress is a really big one.
Yeah.
I know, and planning for their future, right? There's so much uncertainty. And I know students have transfer applications due and are struggling with that on top of going into finals. So this is a lot. I want to throw out that one of the things that's really terrible as a student when you experience this kind of stress is, of course, that stress takes up a lot of cognitive bandwidth. And so that can add some extra stress right there. So you have less mental capacity to actually do your work and do your finals. And, so what do you do about all of this?
I sometimes wonder, right, should we as a community college towards the end of the semester, would it be possible to create a healthy space such as the Student Activity Center, the Intercultural Center, or some other space where it's a quiet space and students can come over and participate in meditation, in some type of just calming space, right? The therapy dogs, perhaps, something of the kind where they can just exit the rest of their challenges and find this space where they can just be themselves. Perhaps it's something that administrators in the future can consider, but I think that we all need that. And instead of going into our cell phones and trying to find that, when in fact we know from the research that a lot of us end up feeling even more stressed or depressed or anxious after being connected to those items, that perhaps having a space like that might be beneficial. But again, you and I are finding the same thing. I start my classes and not all of my students are there because, again, I myself like to celebrate just the fact that students made it to class, and then we get on with the material. But I think that in itself, because we know what they're dealing with, there's so many challenges, as you mentioned. So it's important. So part of it is recognizing that. And then it's important to give them tools to be able to succeed. And I know that you are the one who has all this cognitive knowledge. And therefore, I'm not sure what recommendations you may have for our students, faculty, staff at this moment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how about if we start with like the basics? Like, what do psychologists in general say works to manage stress? And I will also say that my students and I discussed this during this semester. So I'll also follow this up with things that my students have called out as things that are like really especially effective for them. The other thing that happens sometimes when you get like these psychologists say, do this, this, and this, not all of those things are really accessible to everyone, right? So I like the student strategies because I know that these actually work for our students. Okay, so let's start with some of the general ones. Okay, so standard tips, self-care. And what does self-care mean? It really means take care of yourself like you're a little kid. make sure you're getting sleep, you're eating,
Mhm.
and you're exercising. And for all of you who have little kids, you know that if any of these basic needs go unmet, it's a disaster. And
Yeah.
just because we're grown up doesn't mean that it's not a disaster for us too. And I know that a lot of my students say this is like one of the first things they try to address when they realize that they're really stressed. Another one is learning to manage disappointments. And what does that mean? It means that you need to like take a moment and just be sad when you're disappointed, grieve those losses. Also means you should celebrate your achievements. And yes, showing up to class next week every day,
Yeah.
it's a huge achievement. Making it through almost the entire semester with a full class schedule, with one class, whatever you've got on your plate, that is a huge achievement. So just reframe your stress if you can,
Mhm.
okay? And try to think about, this is a challenge, but look how far I've come, I can finish. One that I personally love is to postpone or eliminate tasks. Okay. If your list is long, you can't do everything on it. You can probably do a couple of those things and do them well. So,
Yeah.
really think about what's optional. We've only got 2 more weeks. Maybe there's some things that can be pushed off. Honestly, if you've got a class with some flexibility, maybe some assignments that get dropped, this is a good time to check your grade and think strategically about whether you could actually skip a few things, reduce your workload while you're feeling stressed. Okay, don't judge yourself when you're feeling unmotivated, stressed, unfocused, right? If you notice that cognitively you can't focus, your attention isn't working as well as you would like, just have to give yourself some grace. We're all human. Guess what? Your instructors are feeling the same way at this time of the semester.
Yeah.
So feel free to ask if you need extra grace and flexibility. Obviously, I can't promise that everyone is going to give it to you, but personally, I try to give my students as much flexibility as we can manage, even though we're down to the last couple weeks. Hopefully, at this point in the semester, you have some kind of routine that helps to support you. Routines are great because they can reduce stress, reduce anxiety, because you know what's coming. They're also really good because you don't have to spend as much time planning
Mhm.
and thinking. And so they can, you can automate some stuff, and that takes a little bit off that big pile of things you need to make decisions about. All right, frequent breaks. And I just want to do a little shout out here. Research on studying, memory, and learning says study in short sessions. Do not go for like multiple hours. It's not going to help. You could study for an hour, and if you break that into 2 or 3 separate sessions, you'll actually remember more. So guess what? We can manage to learn more with less effort. I think that's the right kind of strategy for this week. Social support, spending time with other people. My students also really like to throw out that helping other people makes them feel good. And this is a really well demonstrated thing that can boost our own happiness and reduce stress. So look for those social connections. Social isolation tends to make stress a lot worse. Yeah.
And if
So,
I may, that's where studying for finals with a study buddy, some things you will know better than the other person, and the other person will know some things. So when we support somebody by teaching them something, naturally we feel good about ourselves because we have mastered even a little tiny bit of that chemistry, that math, or whatever it is. So please.
yeah, absolutely. I want all my statistics students to have a buddy or a friend, or preferably a whole bunch.
Mhm.
Yeah, limit media. Okay, so I know I'm just as guilty as anyone else of getting tired and zoning out on my phone. But when we talk about limiting media, we do mean like, hey, think about how you're spending your time and if this is going to make you feel better or worse. If you tend to consume news media or things that might amplify stress, this might be a good week to just take a little break and maybe find some happy, fun things to read instead. Focus on what you can control. Okay, so your students, there's a lot of stuff that's out of your control, right? You can ask for help. You can ask your faculty to be more flexible, but there is a limit to what you control. Try not to worry too much about the things you can't do anything about. Doesn't help.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a waste of energy and time really that you could use for something positive, including again going out there and just walking or just doing some type of exercise for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to throw out some things my students like, and you'll see that a lot of these are variations that are kind of maybe a little customized to where we live and what we can do. So one of them is, you want to kind of engage your senses. The things my students like here are spending time in nature. Hey, it can double up as exercise, right? Very well-established way to reduce stress. This could be playing in the garden, going for a walk outside, going to the park, wherever you can find a tree and some grass, right? Some of my students like to take baths or sauna and listen to music. And these can be all good ways to engage your senses and just kind of get outside of your mind a little bit. One of the things students say is really helpful, and you might think about this as like social support, but it's kind of proactive, is that you want to talk to your friends and family about the fact that you're in a really stressful time. And if they're not in school, right, they might have forgotten. It might be a long time since they've had to deal with this. So just say, hey, reminder, finals are coming up. This is really hard. Tell them how you're feeling. Maybe you'll feel better. Maybe they'll be able to support you better. One thing that some of my students really like to do when they're feeling stressed is to play video games. I also like to play video games, so I hear you. It can, again, be a good way for some people to connect with their friends and their social support. For other people, it can just be a good way to kind of get outside of the things they're worried about. Journaling and listening to music are also things that students recommend as ways of helping to manage this. And one that I definitely do is making lists. So again, take a look at what you actually need to get done. One thing I like to do is make my list and then cross off everything that I can manage to not deal with.
Yeah.
All right, so those are the biggies. I just want to throw out there to faculty, hey, the one thing we can do right now is to offer as much flexibility and understanding to our students as possible. They are sometimes dealing with a lot of circumstances outside of their control. So whatever we can do. The other one is, I know it kind of feels like the last possible minute in the semester, but it's not too late to connect our students to services. Student Health Services provides counseling and the mental health services. You can stop by or Google them.
Yeah.
If you are really feeling stressed about the exams and you have test anxiety and you know this is a problem, it is not too late to go see DRD and talk to them about accommodations like more time or a quieter location, and they will help you communicate with faculty. Student success coaches, they're going to help you navigate campus, which means, hey, what resources exist? And from a peer, from a student, they can help you go around and figure this out. They also are good at helping with things like time management, study skills, okay? If you're feeling stuck on like a transfer application, you can't get a hold of a counselor, try reaching out to student success coaches. These students know a lot. And then finally, we also have basic needs navigators, and these are also peers, students, and they can help connect you with things like free food through the food pantry on campus, through CalFresh, and they can put you in touch with other basic needs that the college helps students with. So obviously, we can't solve all your problems, but I hope this helps navigate some of the stressors that we all get this time of year between the holidays and, it's getting dark out, right?
Yeah.
And finals week.
Yeah, that's definitely, there's so many pieces that you brought up, and I just want to mention a couple of them. One is we don't get enough sunlight at this time of the year, and therefore some people suffer from seasonal affective disorder, which means they're going to get feeling down, depressed, just because we don't get enough sunlight. So be aware of that, right? And whenever there is sun, go walk around the campus if you happen to be here. The other one that you mentioned is your family may not understand what it takes to finish a semester, the additional amount of time. Come and stay at the libraries, whether it is the Petaluma Library, the Santa Rosa Library, and just spend all your time there so that you have a healthy space where you can study. And then again, talking about our mental health. So we want to make sure, I myself as a faculty member, I do my best to try and be aware and attentive to the mental health of students. And if they come to me and they say, listen, my grandma is going through this, or I had COVID and I felt I'm still feeling behind on things. I do my best, like you said, to accommodate to the needs of individuals, because I remember when I was a college student and perhaps my faculty member back then didn't have that flexibility or chose not to provide that. And I tried to be attentive and empathetic to my students. And then the other two things I want to mention here is remember that I am conducting, again, my name is Rafael Vasquez Guzman. I am conducting a mental health survey for Latinx students at Santa Rosa Junior College. I'm posting the flyer every day on the SRJC app. And I just want to remind and invite my Latinx students who are psychology majors. We now have, I started the Dr. Maria Hess mentoring program for future therapists and researchers like Dr. Lavoy. Again, the Latinx community, we want to make sure that you feel supported if you're going to go into psychology. So please reach out to me. In the description of the video, you'll find my email address. You can reach out to me for that or for the survey on mental health. How can we support you if we don't know how you're feeling? So please reach out. 42+% of the student population at Santa Rosa Junior College is Latinx. We need to make sure that we are providing you with the right support. And so with that, I want to thank you, Dr. Lavoy. Thank you for taking the time and being here with us. And we'll make this video available to all of our faculty, staff, and students at Santa Rosa Junior College. And hopefully parents will watch this on my YouTube channel so that they can become aware of the need to support our students during this time of the semester. So thank you for taking the time, and hopefully we'll do another one in the spring semester.
You got it. Good luck, everyone.